My presentation is titled Cultivating Belonging and Empowering Local Decisions. We're going to talk about how Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last and Jeffrey K. Liker's The Toyota Way demonstrate the best qualities of an effective leader. Quick semantics. What is an effective leader? An effective leader is someone whose leadership effectively accomplishes the goals of the organization. So the goals of the organization might mean long-term profits and not just, looking like a good leader by meeting the highest, maybe you meet the highest production numbers as a leader, right? But if you're doing this with a lot of waste and you're not actually profiting the company, you're not really being an effective leader. Or maybe it's your work for a nonprofit, maybe it's just growth. Whatever the goals of the company may be, an effective leader must accomplish those goals. Leaders Eat Last. So let's go over what Leaders Eat Last brings to the table in this conversation. This book goes into the neurochemistry and anthropology of belonging, why it matters to belong to a company, and how to cultivate that sense of belonging. So why do we create a sense of belonging? Simon Sinek explains that a sense of belonging in an organization leads to people doing more for the company, not because of fear, but because they care. How does a leader create this sense of belonging? By dedicating real time and energy into talking to people and showing them that they matter, and by cultivating an environment where the incentive is not to sacrifice others for yourself, but to sacrifice yourself for others. So what this means is rewarding behaviors such as giving people credit and looking out for people, covering people's work, all that. The conclusion of this section is an effective leader must create a sense of belonging by dedicating time and energy into individuals to show that they matter, and cultivating a culture where people don't step on each other, but lift each other up. Now we're going into the Toyota Way. What does the Toyota Way bring to the table in this conversation? This book goes into how leadership at Toyota's factories empowers its workers to make local decisions that can affect the quality of production or even halt production if the workers deem it necessary. So why emphasize locality? Allowing and encouraging workers to make the decision to halt production and prioritize quality is about playing it safe, minimizing waste, or muda, they say in the book, because that's the Japanese word, and prioritizing long-term profits over short-term production numbers. How does Toyota empower local decisions? So they implement a switch on each production line that can halt production to give workers more time to fix any problems that there might be. So what does this do? This eliminates waste by ensuring higher quality the first time so you don't have to do it again. And it allows workers to feel a sense of control and power and importance in their jobs, because it feels good to feel like you have the power to contribute and you make decisions for the good of the company. So here's its conclusion for Toyota Way. An effective leader must plan for the long term by empowering individuals to have control over their work and to ensure quality and eliminate waste, and not incentivizing short-term production accomplishments and instead focusing on long-term success. So here's some key points. An effective leader needs to be able to, from Leaders Eat Last, we're going to say cultivate a sense of belonging so that people want to do the work by making your people feel important, by putting time and energy into talking to people face to face, and by making your people feel safe, by creating a culture of helping others and not stepping on others for your own gain. And from the Toyota Way, an effective leader needs to be able to plan for the long-term profits rather than short-term production numbers, by prioritizing quality, by implementing a system where local decisions can fix problems early on, and empower your people to make decisions by letting them feel empowered to actually make these decisions by not incentivizing short-term production numbers. Bringing it together, we're going to talk about all the qualities. The qualities of an effective leader is someone who can connect with people and make them feel important, create the right incentives so that their people can work together and not against each other, plan for the long term rather than short, and empower individuals so that they can make decisions on the local level for the benefit of quality. So that's the end of my presentation. We're now going to talk about my anticipated questions. So let's say you ask, how can I embody Toyota's principle of local autonomy as a leader? Well, that would depend on what your organization is doing. So maybe you're producing something, you can do what Toyota does, which is by giving local control over the production line and letting the people who are actually creating decide how fast things go, so that anyone can fix any problems. And another way to embody local autonomy would be to give people a plan, give people what you want them to do, and ask them how they think it can be done, and just give them more power over the whole operation so that they feel more comfortable and they can work with their strengths because they know themselves better than anybody else. Why is it so important to not prioritize production numbers? Isn't it enough to just have the switch? Let's say you ask this question. And it's a good question. Many American companies, after seeing Toyota do so well by minimizing waste with that switch, many American companies implemented this switch. I believe General Motors tried it, and multiple American Toyota companies tried it, like Toyota firms within America have tried it. And it just doesn't work if you're not also prioritizing long-term profits. Because if you incentivize your managers to get as much production numbers as possible, which all these American companies were doing at the same time as having the switch, then nobody wants to press the switch because they want that reward, they want that recognition, right? So what Toyota had to do was drop this prioritization of production numbers and tell their workers to focus on quality. And that is what actually got them to be pressing the switch and minimizing waste like they were trying to. So let's say you ask, how do I make someone feel like they matter under my leadership? So an example that Simon Sinek gave in an interview that I watched of him, which I suppose I should link as well. An example that Simon Sinek gave in an interview was, when asked this question, was let's say you receive an email from someone about an idea that they have that they want you to implement. You could send an email back and say, I really like your idea and I think you should bring this up in our next meeting. Or you could go to this person in person, look at them face to face and say, hey, I really like your idea and I think you should bring this up in our next meeting. Those two things are very different. One of them is just an email, right? That is very quick. The other one, you got up from your chair and you walked to this person and just to tell them that you like their idea and they should bring it up. Now you're motivating this person. Now you're really rewarding innovation and making people feel that sense of belonging. And here are my citations for the books that I mentioned. These are two of my favorite books. That is all.